So we've looked at some of the different ways that I've made this house model. I thought I would do a short overview and then go to the next step, which is creating 3D walls. So first we have the house, which in my case which is derived from this picture of a floor plan that I had downloaded. Recall that I had scaled this so the measurements that are inside the rooms here that have been defined in the floor plan, those measurements correspond to the scale of my model itself. After I did that, then each of these rooms I drew out a rectangular block in which I had placed dimensions and a label, and then grouped all those things together to create a room. And those I put into a different layer called room blocks. Here I've offset it by 4 feet, so it's above everything. The room blocks then are each groups, and so they don't interact with one another when they overlap, and they're all part of their own layer. After making the room blocks, then I used my line tool and traced out these interior partitions, the interior walls, using the line tools. And these I made into a floor plan. So now here we have a floor plan layer. Let's get rid of that and that. And this floor plan layer here is made of, here's one group which consists of the exterior walls. Here's another group that makes up the interior partition walls. And to each of these groups I also inserted my window and door components, which are designed to cut out spaces inside the walls here for themselves, and so they leave these voids which are easier to see when I eliminate the boundary lines of my walls. So we only have the wall faces here, and that way the interior voids are shown clearly without the intervening lines, as we have here on the exterior wall. So the next thing I want to do is create actual 3D walls. Actually, the next thing that I would normally do would be to put in appliances and so on, but let's make 3D walls. I like 3D walls to live in a layer called architecture. And so I created an architecture layer. And now I'm going to take my wall groups. I'm going to use this floor plan group here as the model for or basis for creating my 3D walls. And I don't want to lose this floor plan because the flat floor plan is useful for other things. So I'm going to make a copy of it. So I'll use my move tool, and I'm going to constrain my movement along the blue axis upwards. I'm going to move it 4 feet just to be consistent with everything else. I'll use the control key. Let us try that again. So I want to use this floor plan, these floor plan elements as the basis of my 3D walls. And I want to keep my floor plan, and so I'm going to make a copy of it, and that copy will be placed into the architecture layer. So I highlight all these things, use my move tool, constrain to upward movement, hit control to make a copy, and define my movement to 4 feet. And so I've moved these 4 feet, and if I go into entity info, then all these grouped objects here are now living in the floor plan layer. Since they're a copy, I'm going to move them. I'll move them into the architecture layer instead, which is not visible. And so I still have my floor plan, which I can use for presentation purposes, other planning purposes. I'm going to make that invisible, make my architecture layer visible. So this is the architecture layer. And I want to extrude my walls. And so first I will select this set of interior walls, and as I had mentioned before, a grouped object doesn't have its faces accessible for editing, so I need to right click on it and go to Edit Group. So now I'm editing the group, and as you can see, if I click on the surface becomes stippled because it's now accessible for editing. I'll use my push-pull tool. I'm going to pull this up. I'm going to pull these walls up 8 feet. So I'll type in 8 feet and hit enter. And so now I have a set of walls. And these doors here have moved upwards. That is a little bit bothersome. I'll deal with that later. I found it was necessary to make 2 separate sets of interior walls, otherwise they had some inappropriate interactions with one another, so I have to do this again. Use my push-pull tool. And by the way, your push-pull, you can snap it to context here, so it goes up to the same level. And so now I have all my interior walls. You'll notice there are no openings for the doors. I do have my 2D door elements here. I'm going to get rid of those because I don't need them. On this level.